Hey gang, we are in a bit of uncharted waters here, and so I wanted to take a couple of minutes and explain how we're going to do things in UC 120. First, some general stuff. I don't necessarily think that a lot of people are going to have a lot of answers in a short period of time. Work with your instructors that aren't that familiar with iLearn as they kind of struggle with some things. Please, also at the same point, if you personally are struggling with any academics, I feel like it would be great to reach out to your instructors via email. UC 120, this class, is going to turn into what's called an asynchronous class, meaning that we're not all going to do everything at the same time. For kind of a month, you get to decide when you do assignments, with a couple of exceptions that we're going to talk about in the future. We're going to work through a timeline here, and so that's how this video is going to work. First, if you have not completed your informative speech yet, between the two sections is a little less than 20 students, I'm going to ask that you submit that assignment through iLearn. Now, the easiest way to do that is to use a smartphone, having somebody record you, and I put all of this into iLearn, having somebody record you in a full body situation so that I can judge nonverbals, then upload that speech to YouTube and to send me the link. Now, as I wrote in iLearn, if you are uncomfortable submitting that speech to YouTube, you can submit the speech itself, the video itself, as a file directly to iLearn, but it needs to be less than 500 megabytes of data, meaning that some people might need to zip those files. I put in iLearn under informative speech submissions, that assignment, how to, there's a link for how to shrink that file, but by far the easiest thing to do, both on my perspective and I think for you, is to upload that speech to YouTube. If you have not completed your informative speech, I would like to have that completed by March 20th. It gives you 9 days to be able to do that. Also, when I put this in iLearn as well, if you have a visual aid for that, I would love to see you try to be able to use that. Like, for example, if you had a PowerPoint to have like a small screen, like just a laptop or something like that, and you point it out as if there's an audience there. If you had an object, let's say you were going to talk about a coffee cup, just take a picture of the coffee cup or use the coffee cup in the speech. Essentially, you're going to do the speech like you normally would, but there's not going to be an audience in front of you. When you submit that, I'll have a grade for it and some feedback for it within probably, I'm going to guess, about 36 hours. I'm going to try to stay on top of this stuff as much as possible. If you've already submitted, by submitted I mean just did your informative speech in class, there's already a grade for that. If iLearn says like, hey, you still need to submit that, and there is a grade attached, don't worry about it. Clearly, you've already done that speech. If, however, there's still a 0 for that assignment and you did it in class, that's my mistake. Send me an email. I'll fix that as soon as I possibly can. All right, let's look a little bit further with what's on iLearn for everybody. There's a couple of things. The first is some notes based off of persuasive speaking. Now, if you remember back to last Tuesday, I gave a persuasion lecture. We talked about the ancient Greeks and Aristotle and ethos and pathos and logos, and that's the 5th century Greek stuff. We're going to modernize that a little bit, and rather than me doing a video lecture on it, I just kind of gave you the notes on it. They're important. Reading through those things and understanding them is of vital importance, but it's just going to be in a written format. You can read through that at your leisure. The next thing that I gave you is the rubric for the persuasive speech. Now, that persuasive speech is what these next two assignments are about. I made a discussion board. That discussion board has two parts, the first of which is due March 21st. And it's going to be like, hey, what would you like to give your persuasive speech topic about? It's nothing broad, like I'm going to ask you for a couple of specific things within that discussion board. What do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? Where might you look at for some sources? And then March 31st, I'm going to ask you to have completed an outline for that speech. So, in theory, I can't do anything past March 31st because we don't know whether or not we'll be in session after March 31st. Just to be aware, my plan is if we don't come back on March 31st, everybody will record their persuasive speeches and submit them over the system. But if Capitol comes back on, say, April 1st, and to be fair, we have no idea, and I think pretty much anybody at this point that's going to try to speak authoritatively on the issue is not doing something they should do, other than to say, like, we don't know. It is my plan that we do our persuasive speeches into the first part of April and do our group assignment, which is, as you can see on the syllabus, like the way that we end the class throughout the months of April. If we don't go back to class, there will be no group activity. There will be an additional speech that you will do in a video recorded session, but we're not going to look at April until we know whether or not we're going to be here in April. We're just looking at March. So you have, if you, to do a TLDR, as the kids online say, if you are looking at it as simply like, what do I need to get done? If you have not completed your informative speech, that does need to be sent to me by the 20th. Once we have finished that, or if you've already finished that, you're going to start looking at that discussion board, which needs to be done by March 21st. Once you've completed that, you have a speech outline that is due March 31st. Now, if you want to do all of these things on March 12th or March 13th, cool, go ahead, that's fine. And then after that, you don't owe me anything for quite a while. If you want to wait all the way up until those exact deadline dates, that's fine too. The only thing that I really ask is that you don't pretend that this class doesn't exist. I'm willing to work with you on things, but if you need the informative speech done, like, please prioritize that so we can move past informative and into persuasion. And I'll come back and do some more videos just to keep in touch, but nothing fancy, all right? Be safe, be healthy, and whatever help you need, if you need something from me, feel free to send me an email. I'm clearly still coming to Capitol's campus. I'm around. All right, have an awesome day, you guys.